My name is Misha, and on behalf of the Seattle Public Library, I'm honored to be with you here tonight. Before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional unceded land of the First Peoples of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past, present, and future. Wherever you are on Indigenous land. I hope that you'll join me in honoring with gratitude the land itself and those who have stewarded the land for generations. We thank the Seattle Public Library Foundation that makes so many of our free library programs possible, the Gary and Connie Kunis Foundation for sponsoring this event, and thank you to our media sponsor who are here in number, the Seattle Times, tonight. Right? It's so special, so special. Finally, thank you to Third Place Books, who are here to fulfill your book buying needs. A couple of orders of business. You'll see that this door closes. If you need to use the restroom while we're still open till 8, you'll go through either this door or the children's store. They close briefly when we close the building at 8 and then reopen. Don't worry. It's okay. We will take care of you. And then I wanted to let you know how the signing line works. Moira will be signing books at that tall silver table. We'll have you in an orderly line through this door, and then book sales will still be happening at that same time. I wanted to share also that Emerald City Romance Writers is here tonight. And while Moira's book is not a romance per se, she has been a huge champion of the genre, and we wanted an opportunity for you all to meet that organization and see what they're working on. But this is a book that, again, any debut is a celebration, okay? But this particular debut, it's a love letter to books. It's a love letter to booksellers, and the power of connection. And yeah, it's just one of those books that we can celebrate in so many ways. All the more cause for celebration. I will let you know that it is currently a peak pick. It came out yesterday. We are out of copies out there. They will come back. But because this is a book that is an homage, a love story, both to Third Place and to booksellers, I wanted to bring Spencer Ruchti up here to do the introduction proper, not just because it's about the world he's in, but also because he's so good at it. Please welcome Spencer Ruchti.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm Spencer Ruchti. I'm the author events manager for Third Place Books. You may know us from our 3 bookstore locations across the Seattle metro area. I'm really excited to be here to be celebrating Moira's debut novel, Storybook Ending, and want to give a special shout out to Misha and Jane here and the librarians at the Seattle Public Library, who are instrumental in making events like this happen. So let's please give them a round of applause here. Third Place Books is particularly proud sponsor of this event for many reasons that I'll be getting into. We are celebrating 27 years of business. Thank you. I am not really all that responsible for it, but we also have a great lineup of events this summer at our store, including appearances by Ashley Poston, Julie Soto, and Allie Hazelwood, and Jeopardy host Ken Jennings. One of these things is not like the other. You can find our full events calendar at thirdplacebooks.com, where you can also sign up for our email newsletter. At the bookstore, we love libraries, and we love library readers, and we love librarians. The Seattle Public Library, I believe, has 250 copies of Storybook Ending in circulation. 500 of those are currently held. Is that correct? That might be a correct number. Generally so. The point being, there is a lot of demand for this book. But if you would like to take a copy home with you tonight and have it signed by Moira, and then go home and spill wine on it or tear the dust jacket in your enthusiasm, that is what we are here for at the bookstore. Please come give us a visit. We have a whole couch worth of books over there. It's basically furniture. And a reminder also that every purchase you make tonight does support the future of our author series. So thank you. I was thinking this morning of how Moira actually gave me my first print mention in the Seattle Times about 2 years ago when she interviewed me for an article called "What If You Gave a Book Signing and Nobody Came?"
Right.
Which I was chuckling quietly to myself about and think is pretty ironic considering the crowd that has appeared here tonight. It is a very rare circumstance that an author's first book launch can be attended by perhaps between 200 and 300 people in the room tonight. If you are sitting in this room today, you know that the breadth of Moira's network and the gravitational pull of her work. We have here tonight family and friends who cross the border from Canada, librarians and booksellers. We have, I assume, many readers of Moira's arts coverage for the Seattle Times, where she has written for 24 years. And I can also say that there are countless Washington authors whose names have been cemented in print under Moira's byline. Moira's other greatest hits include profiles and interviews with Jamie Ford, Sue Grafton, Tayari Jones, Margaret Atwood, George Saunders, and friendly phone calls with the likes of Kazuo Ishiguro and Ann Patchett. That's a crazy lineup. But Moira is perhaps best known as a lover of bookstores and libraries. After all, she is a bona fide three-time Seattle Indie Bookstore Day champion. Third placers are particularly proud of this book because if you don't know, the bookstore at the center of Storybook Ending is based on Moira's own neighborhood bookstore, which is my own neighborhood bookstore, Third Place Books, Ravenna. How many of you have been to that store, by the way? Any frequenters of Third Place Books, Ravenna? Oh, I love that. Moira, to write this book, interviewed veteran booksellers. And when you read Storybook Ending, you will note the language around the commerce and joy of books and bookstores, these weird liminal spaces between retail, community gathering spots, and institutions of education. Life milestones such as book launches, of course, birthdays, proposals, they are all celebrated in these spaces. Or in the case of Moira's novel, a bookstore can also be the set piece for a feature film. We have with us tonight Bethany Jean Clement from the Seattle Times, food critic and frequent fun collaborator with Moira. Bethany interviewed Moira for the Times, and I just want to share a small piece of what she wrote there in her May 20th interview. Bethany writes, "It is the honest thing to encounter a friend on a page in a new form, in a story that, it turns out, celebrates friendship. It dawned on me that everyone else who reads Storybook Ending would discover my friend through her lovely voice. And right now, we need all the friendship and loveliness we can get." Here for so much loveliness and more, please join me in welcoming Moira McDonald and Bethany Jean Clement.
Hello? 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 Is this on? People heard that? I'm getting a nod. Okay. Bethany, are you working?
Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey, we're both here.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Thank you all for coming. You cannot possibly all be related to me, so this is amazing. I wanted to start off by saying a word or two about this lovely person next to me, because I thought some of you might be wondering why I'm being interviewed by the food critic when my book has nothing whatsoever to do with food. And in fact, I am terrible at writing about food, which Bethany might confirm. About 7 years ago, I had a very good idea. It happens about once a decade or so. And I had this really good idea. I thought, well, what if I, the film critic, teamed up with a food critic, and we did some reviews of local movie theaters that offered real food and drink, and would call it Dinner at a Movie. And it might be a lot of fun. And at the time, I really didn't know Bethany Hardly at all. I don't think we'd ever had a conversation. You know, she was just a coworker who I knew to be nice. I admired her work immensely. I thought she seemed really cool. And I thought we might have some fun and write some good work. And we did, but something entirely unexpected happened, is that we became incredibly good friends. And in the past few years, we have supported each other through some really hard times. We have rejoiced in some wonderful times. And it has just been this kind of magical connection. And this is kind of a theme of my book, which is that sometimes in life, you open an unexpected door and you don't know what is going to be there, what or who is going to be there. And what you might find is that it's somebody who is essential. And so that's why I am here with Bethany. And what you're going to hear tonight is not just two writers speaking, but two friends having a conversation.
And it is my utter joy to be here to celebrate Moira's accomplishment and her lovely, lovely first novel. And I just want to start by sharing what Moira emailed me. If she was waiting to watch a movie that she was going to review. She said, Marvel movie, right?
I think it was a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
They all run together.
Yay. And she got the first blurb for her book in an email, and she read it in the theater, and she immediately sent it to me. Did you start crying? Because I started
did.
crying.
Right
We
before the Marvel movie, which is not a good way to go into it.
Yeah. And that blurb is from the aforementioned Jamie Ford. And in part, it reads, he calls Moira's storybook ending so radiant, so big-hearted. Reading it feels like receiving an unexpected gift, one that you've waited a lifetime for. Right? And I felt that when I
By the way, this was bought for me at a bookstore. They have these. Yeah,
it's made of pages.
cool, isn't it? Yeah, great. Yeah.
I felt that when I read the very first page of the book, and recognized my friend there and her, as someone very close to her who's here this evening said, it has the beauty of Moira's soul in it. I'm not going to ask you to respond to these allegations. I want you to tell us how you exercised unusual restraint for you with semicolons.
Okay, I love a good semicolon, you know? I like a sentence that kind of meanders a little bit and maybe takes you off in little different directions. Throughout my writing career, editors have said, Moira, your semicolons are lovely, but there are a lot of them. You know, perhaps we could do a few fewer. So yeah, their storybook ending went through quite a few drafts, as all novels do. The first one probably had, well, way too many semicolons in it, and probably a lot of em dashes as well. I like those too. And we did clear out a reasonable number of them. So I think we have a good balance now.
Oh, I think it's perfect. I would have liked
She's my
maybe
friend.
maybe
Yeah.
more semicolons, but and so in your capacity as the longtime arts critic for the Seattle Times, you've written approximately 1 billion book reviews and 1 billion film reviews.
About
and
2 billion film
yeah.
reviews.
Right. So somehow this germinated into this alchemical novel, which is set in a bookstore where a film is being filmed. And the idea came to you in a way that also, I loved when you told me this, also involves both books and the library.
Yes. Yeah, the idea for storybook ending came, it's been, God, it was years ago. I started writing it in earnest in April of 22, so it's been a little while. But long before that, I started noticing things I was finding in books. I use the library all the time. I love Seattle Public Library. Right now I have like 7 overdue books. Just so you know my qualifications there. And I love Third Place Books also sells new and used books. And so sometimes you find things in books. And I started noticing years ago the stuff that I was finding. And some of it was really interesting. And I found like a beautiful hand-painted bookmark somebody had made. I found a handwritten page that I don't know if it was a shopping list or poetry, because you could read it either way. It was really, really beautiful. I found a brochure from something called a metaphysical shop somewhere on the East Coast. I found airplane boarding passes. I found an anniversary card with a love note in it. I started saving all these things. I didn't know what I would do with them. I started saving them. And I started thinking about how we can leave parts of ourselves in books that we love. We can leave our hearts in them. We can also leave stuff in them. And you can leave something in a book and it goes to the next person. And I started thinking about the people who had left these things in the books that I found. And then one day I was at Ravenna Third Place, and where I'm there a lot. And I saw a bookseller behind the counter where they sort the used books. And I thought, so if you wanted to leave a note for that guy, you could put it in a book and he'd find it. And then I thought, well, what if he didn't find it? And someone else got the book and they found the note and they thought it was for them. And suddenly I had a Nora Ephron rom-com in my head. And so I had to write it.
And you said, I forget your exact wording, but it was like a wonderful set of complications.
Yeah, I thought this could get messy when you have two people writing to each other, each of them believing they're writing to this third person who is completely oblivious. So basically what you have is a love triangle in which nobody knows that there is a triangle. And so I had to create something for this hapless third person who has no idea what's going on. So he had to have a plot line. And I thought, well, what if they were filming a movie in the bookstore? You know, you see a lot of movies. I just saw one the other day. Jane Austen Ruined My Life. Not a bad movie. It's opening this week. You often see movies that are filmed in bookstores. I thought, well, what if this particular bookstore, what if a movie came in? And what if this particular bookseller, who happens to be quite nice looking, got pulled into the whole drama of making a movie? I thought, okay, that gives him a plot line and kind of keeps him busy while these two women are communicating with each other, thinking they're writing to him.
And you named the handsome bookseller after Wesley in The Princess Bride, just to put another little film element into it.
Well, that happened because right before I went on leave to write this book in April of 22, the last story I wrote before I went on leave was I went over to Central Cinema to write something about them. That's a wonderful theater, if you guys don't know. It's a great repertory theater.
Pretty good food too.
Yeah, good food. Good food and drink. We have evaluated it. It's very good. And the movie they were showing the night I happened to be going there was The Princess Bride. And I was astonished to find the theater full of young people who wouldn't have been born when it first came out. And they were all just super excited and reciting along with their favorite lines and cheering for the heroes and the villains. I thought, oh my gosh, this movie has a real impact. And I thought, oh, and this movie's been around long enough that if you loved that movie, you could have named your kid for a character in this movie, and they would have to live up to that for their whole life. And so my character's name is Wesley. And it is something of a burden for him that he is named for this character. He's kind of over it. But that's how he got his name.
And these aren't spoilers. It's something of a burden to him to be so handsome, which
yes, he doesn't know that he's handsome, and he's not very sure of himself. And I thought that's an interesting place to be, because we tend to think of incredibly good-looking people as very confident and very just moving through life very smoothly, and he doesn't. He's still kind of finding his way. Actually, all my characters are they're a little bit stuck. They're trying to find their way.
Yeah. And I love the fact that not only is it set in your favorite Seattle bookstore, when you realized you were going to be using this as the setting, you, of course, being you, decided you needed to do all the research, and you contacted someone from my longtime dear departed Capitol Hill bookstore.
Yes. From Bailey Coy. Yes, Michael Coy, who was the wonderful manager at the Ravenna store for many years. He retired a few years ago. He also, you might know him from M. Coy Books downtown and from Bailey Coy on Capitol Hill for many years. And I knew Michael because it was my neighborhood store. I would go in and talk to Michael a lot. And one day I just asked him, can I buy you some coffee and ask you some questions? Because I've never worked in a bookstore and I have no idea how it works. I thought, I don't want to sound dumb. So I bought him coffee and asked him many, many questions and learned a few things.
More than a few things, I would say. And that's like a bit of Seattle specific research that you did that I think the book really benefited from. And I have to confess, I had never been to Ravenna Third Place Books until last night for Moira's celebration. I know. But, you know, I grew up on Capitol Hill, so I went to bookstores on Capitol Hill. And when I walked in, I absolutely recognized it from Moira's writing about that as the setting in the book. I felt like I recognized the smell. I mean, it was like, I'm getting chills.
There is a bookstore smell. It's amazing. Yeah. They should bottle it.
So I always think that questions about the actual writing process are sort of tedious. Like, Do you
Look,
write,
to two writers, they're fascinating, but I don't know about the rest of you.
right, do you write longhand? Do you write on a computer? Do you write like only standing on your head in the middle of the night
Yeah.
or, you know?
If you had seen my handwriting, you would know I never write anything longhand. Oh my God. I take notes in the dark in the movies all the time and I just sit and scribble and yeah, it's hopeless.
And do you look at them after that?
Not usually, no.
Right. Yeah.
It just keeps me busy, you know.
Right, the process of writing it down.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
helps embed it,
Yeah.
So a fascinating thing that you told me about your process was that there are apparently two schools of novelists. One school that does a lot of outlining, plotting, figuring it all out, and another one that doesn't do that at all. And you found that you fell very firmly into what I would say, knowing you, is not the category that I would necessarily
Really? I
expect.
seem like an outliner to you?
A little bit.
I have never outlined anything in my life. I'm just terrible at it. Actually, I love this. I read somewhere that the two kinds of fiction writers are called plotters and pantsers. Pantsers meaning seat of the pants. And so I am a total pantser. And I began my novel having absolutely no idea how it would end, or really even what would happen in the middle. I just started with 3 characters. I thought, well, let's just hang with these people and kind of see what happens and see where they go. And a really weird thing happened. I've always heard about novelists talking about how their characters do things that are out of their control. And I always thought that is the silliest thing I ever heard. You know, that just seemed kind of self-indulgent. I thought that's crazy. And then it happened to me. Two of my characters met long before I meant them to. You know, suddenly one of them was on a bus headed downtown and the other one works downtown. I was like, oh, they're going to meet. And I hadn't really planned that. It just sort of happened. So and that's why I think it's really a lot of fun to write without an outline, because you just have no idea where your character is going to take you. And of course, there's a lot of revising afterwards. So it's not like you write the whole thing by the seat of your pants and then turn it in. But the first experience of going through it was just really fun, because I had to figure out, where is this going to take me? How can I resolve this? Because this little triangle that I set up, there's not a really obvious way to resolve it. So it was fun to take that journey with those people.
And you got stuck, you told me at one point, and I found the way that you decided to try to solve that really interesting.
I did. I got horribly stuck about maybe a little over halfway through the first draft. And you know, when you write your first novel, you know what you're doing. I've never written a novel before. I write journalism, which is facts and opinions that I have to back up. And making everything up is incredibly freeing and also incredibly weird. And so I was halfway through and I had all these balls in the air, all these characters, and I just got stuck. And I can't remember how long I just kind of sat in that stuckness. But then I remembered some advice I'd read somewhere that if you're really stuck, jump ahead. And so I jumped ahead and I wrote the final chapter. I thought maybe I need to know what the last moment is. I don't know how I'll get them there, but I think I need to know what that final endpoint is. So I jumped ahead and wrote that final chapter, and that just did it for me. So I was able to go back and fill it in and get them there.
This and the characters going rogue is a look into Moira's mind that I just find astonishing.
And terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that you being able to express yourself through these different characters and have them all contain the beauty of your soul, and to solve this plot problem in this bizarre way, just start at the end. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, here is a little drawback to working this way. Very, very late in the process, after I'd already sold the book and I had an editor and we were getting things finally done, my editor said, you know, can you just take a look and just tidy up the timeline and just make sure the timeline makes sense? I had not paid any attention to the timeline. And I had 3 different characters who work 3 different job schedules, and different things would happen. And somehow, like, every chapter was a Thursday. I wasn't paying any attention at all. And so I had to go back and do what I hate doing, which is just sort of make a chart and plot it out. Okay, if chapter 1 happens on Tuesday the 2nd, then chapter 2 is happening on Friday, and just plotting the whole thing and making it all make sense, and think, okay, and I already said this character doesn't work on the weekend, so this has to happen on Monday, and that messes this. Oh, it was so annoying. It was like 3 days of doing that, of kind of untangling this mess of my own creation. So that's why I'm not entirely recommending you write the way I write.
And so far, Storybook Ending has been translated into 17 languages.
It's in the process. In the process.
not a translation, but you just got a big box of the British
I
edition.
did, yeah,
which is
it just came
exciting.
yesterday, yeah. Yeah.
And we had a reader of the Seattle Times interview in the comments who said, is Korean going to be one of the languages? Because I have friends in Korea who want to read your book. And it is. So how does it feel to think about people all over the world reading your book in all these different languages? And
It makes me think that bookstores and stories are what unite all of us. Something about this book, and I couldn't say what it is, seems to have touched a chord. And all these international sales happened a while ago. So I've had some time to get my head around it, but I don't think my head is around it. It's astonishing to me to think this. The other day I was sent a copy of my Polish cover, and there's my name and all these words in Polish. And it's amazing. And it's wonderful to think. And none of the international copies are out yet, but they will be. Some of them are coming this summer and some will be later in the year. Some will be next spring. But it's a wonderful thing to think about.
And as
Yeah.
they've been sort of arising, these foreign editions get artists in the country to do a completely different version of the book jacket
Mhm.
art. And
Some
that
of them
has
do.
been so cool. Moira's
Yeah.
been texting me like, oh, here's the Dutch one. And they're all really different and really beautiful.
Yeah.
And we both have, I think, the same favorite.
Yeah, German one. What's funny though is that for the American cover, which you will see, which is lovely, we went through a lot of iterations, and I kept being assured that we want you to be happy with it. For the other ones, I wasn't consulted the slightest. It was just sort of sent something. Here is your German cover, and actually my German cover is stunning. It's absolutely beautiful, but nobody asked me what I thought. But yeah, it's fun to see them, and it's fun to see the title translated. And then looking up the translation, the German title, and I will not say it in German, but it translates as "until the end of all pages," which is just a lovely phrase. I like that.
It's like both lovely and dire.
Yeah, it's kind of dark.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
And that one has various wildflowers
It's like
blooming,
bursting through the roof of a bookshop. It's lovely. Yeah.
and they're real wildflowers,
Yeah.
Mom. You could name
Oh
them
yeah,
all.
where's Bethany's mom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
Let's see. What about the role of Diet Coke in the production?
Oh,
Storybook.
my
ending?
mother won't like this question. Diet Coke is the wind beneath my wings. I'm sorry.
Yes, Moira has at least one Diet Coke every time we go to the movies, and her desk at the Seattle Times is littered with empty.
Okay, my
Diet
mom
Coke
is sitting
cans.
here, so let's.
Sorry.
Next question.
Yes. I wanted you to share with everyone the literal sign that
Oh,
you
yeah.
got that told you to write this book at the
Okay.
time that you did.
I kind of believe the universe tells us things. And back 3-ish years ago, a while ago, before any of this came about, I was at Ravenna Third Place Books, the way I always am, looking around, and I was looking for a book. I had a very specific kind of book in mind. I wanted to find something that was funny and light, but not predictable and not sort of insipid, and sort of literary and fun. And that day, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of books out there like that, but that day I just wasn't finding anything like that. And so on a rare occasion, I was about to leave the store without buying anything. And there was a sign up above at the front desk up on the wall that I think had been there a long time. I'd never noticed it before, but it's a quote by Toni Morrison. And this quote, which some of you may know, is, "If you cannot find the book you want to read, then you must write it." And I was like, okay, Toni, okay, Third Place Books. Just because I had been thinking for a long time that writing a novel was something I would like to try. And it's so easy to let years go by. I mean, I am very old to be a debut novelist, but I'm old to be a debut anything. But so many years passed when I thought, I think I would like to try this, but I'm busy, and life goes on, and I'm so grateful that so many people in my life encouraged me that, yes, try this, yes, do this. My wonderful husband over there agreed to a very impractical plan of mine to go on an unpaid leave to write this book, which wasn't very smart, but it worked out well. So round of applause for him.
And I think a round of applause for the Seattle Times for allowing Moira to take the time.
Yes.
And continue to do this stuff and bringing us together. And supporting the arts and books and all the good stuff.
Yes.
Oh, here's one. If you could offer one piece of advice that didn't come from Toni Morrison for someone contemplating writing a book, what would it be? I'm asking for a friend.
Don't we all think Bethany should write a book? Yeah. Really, the best advice I can give, if anyone in this room is thinking about writing a book, is just try it. Just jump in, see what happens. Get some people in your head and start playing with them and just see what happens. I'm so glad I tried. I'm so glad I stopped being so stuck in, oh, I should do that someday. Yeah, just do it.
Just
Do it.
Just do it.
Do it, Bethany.
Nike
Do it.
here now.
Yes. Yeah. And
Um,
we will all gather again to talk about your book.
Yes. Okay, it's a date.
Yeah.
So should we talk a little bit about your second novel?
There's not a great deal to say, but although I do have a good chunk, the only thing I will say, my second novel is, it's not a sequel or anything like that. It's not the same people, but it is inspired by a conversation I overheard in Tuscany. And that is all I'm going to say.
Can we also say that you told me it also involves a curious mix-up?
Yes,
Yeah.
not so much a mix-up as a bold gesture that doesn't go quite as planned.
Don't you want to know? Yeah. Where are we for time?
I think how would that, Misha? Or we can riff all night, but should we start a Q&A and then we can talk more if people don't have questions?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're going to do that dazzling thing where we run the mics over the side. So raise your hands. My lovely colleagues are going to reach you, and you're all going to take turns asking amazing questions.
Hi, one question, but there's 3 commas in it, so watch out. I didn't hear the word editor anywhere. Was there one, comma? And Dutton, really? For first-time author? Wow, who do you know? Confess. 3, I just love how you let the characters loose and cavort and do whatever they want to. But did the editors tame them in any way? And the final question is, you're going to do the film. I heard you storyboarding there earlier. And do you have any concerns that when it does happen, your story might get lost in translation, as it were?
Okay, so that was 4 questions. Okay, let's see if I can remember them all. Yes, I do have a wonderful editor at Dutton. Her name is Maya Ziv. My book sold at auction, which is something I never dreamed could happen. Dutton is an imprint of Penguin Random House, and they were the ones that I ended up with. And my editor there, Maya, worked with me closely. I wouldn't say the book changed enormously between when it was sold and the final version. What she was really great at, what actually helped me a lot, the way Maya likes to edit, is by asking a lot of questions. A lot of questions about the characters, and a lot of, can I understand a little more why he did this, and that kind of thing. So that was very, very helpful. But I wouldn't say the book changed enormously during that process. And what were your other questions?
Script.
Oh,
The film is.
well, let's not get ahead of ourselves because there is, I do actually have a film agent. That does not necessarily mean there will be a film deal. If there is a film deal, that does not necessarily mean there'll be a film, because I know the movie business pretty well. If that did happen, and I have to say, I can picture the movie this book could make, and that would be lovely. I doubt that I would have any level of creative control, and that's something that you just kind of have to go. Only very famous people get to have creative control, and I am not famous. So I would just have to, obviously I wouldn't turn my book over to anyone who I thought was going to do a terrible job with it, but ultimately I wouldn't be able to control that. So I would just have to have faith in them. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk for a minute. Oh.
Moira, this is kind of a silly question, but I know the Ravenna place. And how much does the restaurant, speaking of food, next door to the library, does it have a place? I mean, many, many years ago, there was a Brown Bear was right next to Third Place Books of Ravenna. And now there's a considerably fancier restaurant there that's very good, but a lot more expensive. And I'm just wondering, does that come in at all? Do any of your people go in and have a coffee or a glass of wine?
I'm not sure I quite heard the question correctly.
Oh.
You were asking about the restaurant at Ravenna Third Place?
Yes,
Where is Spencer? He can answer that. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
but there have been a number of food places there over the years.
Up downstairs.
Is it in the book? Well, yes, in fact, the book, the restaurant in the book is kind of similar. It's a little more creative than the one in real life, but yes. And because I thought a bit about, this is kind of interesting, you have two businesses under one roof, and there's a little bit of overlap there. So yes, the restaurant is in the book as well.
We have a question down here in the front, and then we'll head towards the back. We see you. Thank you.
Do you able to go overseas for an event like this, or have they stuck you in the States?
Oh, they don't send anybody anywhere these days unless you're famous, which I am not. So no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to Portland and I'm going to Spokane. No, sadly, big deal book tours are a thing of the past, at least for unknown authors such as myself.
Hi, so I don't think I need a deal.
What? Okay. I'm told I should use this. So you talked about your characters taking on a life of their own and going wherever. Do you still think of those characters, or are they all, I mean, like, do you find them popping into your head? And not that there necessarily be a sequel, but that you just like, oh, I wonder what they're up to today.
Oh, I love this question because yes, when those people lived in my head for the longest time. One of my characters has a job that I have always wanted to have, which is that she works at a department store and she's kind of a personal shopper. She helps people put outfits together. And I've always wanted to do that, although I've done that for some of my friends unofficially. But now whenever I'm shopping, I think, well, would Laura like this? She's just very much in my head. And yeah, they did kind of walk the streets with me for a long time. But now that I'm trying to work on a second book, I'm trying to put those first people away and have these other people in my head now. Otherwise it gets too crowded in there.
I liked that you said that you felt like you got them to a really nice place and that they were
Yeah.
just sort of continuing on
Yeah, they're
outside of
happy now.
Moira's mind.
Yeah, they're happy now, and so I'm setting them free and they can just wander and live their best lives.
I love we have a little cooperative thing going, getting this to me in the middle. Hi. First of all, just to the both of you, sorry. It's lovely getting to see you together. I think like there are studies that show that the parts of your brain that light up when you hear people that you sort of experience as friends but have never met are very much the same as the ones that you see when you experience people who actually are your friends. And I think probably hundreds of us in this room feel that way about the two of you and what you have created. So first off, thank you for that. Secondly, is it weird to not be able to review books anymore? And do you like read books and are like, oh, I want to say this thing, but I'm not allowed to anymore on my.
Oh, well, as many of you may know, I don't review books in the paper anymore. My editors decided that because I was under contract to a major publisher, that it would not be appropriate for me to continue. Honestly, I don't miss that because, well, reviewing is hard. Writing is hard. All of it is hard. But book reviewing is overwhelming because there are hundreds of books coming out every month. And so even if you are just completely on top of everything, which I rarely am, you can only cover the tiniest fraction. And so every single day there was this sense of, oh my gosh, beautiful books are being ignored. Beautiful books are being ignored. And I just felt kind of awful about it all the time. So in short, no. Yeah. Yeah.
She set the books free outside of her mind.
Their lives now. Yeah.
We have a question right here in the front, so pardon me. Let's do this.
I have a question and also a thank you. Thank you for the virtual book club you did during COVID. It was a godsend
Oh,
to
that's
me. It decreased my loneliness like you wouldn't believe.
So glad.
But my question is the title of your book.
Yeah.
Did you have other titles in mind before you decided on this one?
I did. Well, titles are so hard. And I think, maybe some writers begin with the title, and for me, it really came last. I had a few terrible titles that I'm not going to share because they were awful. No, they were terrible. They were bad. No, they were bad. I didn't like them. And then we just went through a lot of iterations with the title. And once I had an agent, she was getting ready to put it out to all these editors. She said, Moira, we have to have a title. And so she kind of pushed me to make a list. And I made a list, and Storybook Ending was on that list. It was not at the beginning or the end. It was just one of many things that I thought might work. And so she surveyed everybody at the agency. She said, everybody loves Storybook Ending. And I thought I kind of like the dual meaning of it. And I think it works, but I still kind of think that out there's a better title that I haven't thought of yet. I guess it's too late now, but yeah. Yeah, no, it took me a while. Hi.
Subject.
Why,
We really enjoy
Oh.
we really enjoy the dinner at a movie. How do you folks write that? Do you like Skype each other and write it on the fly?
It's, one of our editors is here. It's an incredibly arduous process.
it's really,
The research
it's
is
so annoying.
horrifying.
We are so beleaguered by this. You have no idea. Yeah.
No, from the very beginning, if I may,
You may.
we just, one of us was like, let's hop into a Google Doc together. So Moira's at her place and I'm at home, and we just get in there and we sort of decided we would do, divide it in different categories, and we just started chatting, and we're both fast typists and incredibly funny people. So it worked great.
Yeah, and we we usually start off by, gossiping about our workmates and things like that. And
Which we'll
eventually
do
they'll
like
edit
this.
that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody had a microphone up there.
Hi. My question is, when it comes to writing, as opposed to, say, doing the laundry or weeding the garden, are you more of a morning person or a night owl? And do you set aside the same time each day to do your writing?
In terms of, well, I certainly don't weed my garden, I'll tell you that. I went on leave to write this book because when I'm not on leave, I am working all the time, doing journalism, which I do, for a full workday. When I was on leave, I actually found what worked for me is just treating it like my regular job. And I got up every morning and I got dressed like I was going to work. And I got in front of my computer at about 8 a.m. like I was going to work, but instead I wrote a novel. And I would write all morning as long as I could. I mean, you spend a lot of time looking out the window. Like at work, I spend a great deal of time like crossing the newsroom to go and get something and then come back again. But yeah, I would say I mostly wrote in the mornings and maybe I would revise a bit in the afternoons. I don't know if I'd call myself a morning person. I'm kind of an insomniac. So I'm kind of awake all the time anyway. But yeah, I think I would say I mostly wrote in the morning, but really I was very conscious when I was on leave that I didn't have a huge amount of time. I had like 5 months or 6 months, whatever it was. So I was really focused that every day I really have to sit down and just do a lot of work on this. So just, yeah, every day.
And Moira has a sign at her desk at home that says no crying.
It's actually a little souvenir that I got from a movie. It's a Wes Anderson movie. I forget which one. It's a really cute little wooden sign that says no crying. And so that is a useful thing to have in front of you when you have a lot of work to do.
I have a question over here. Thank you for waiting for the microphone, everybody. Thank you. I really appreciate the comment about seeing you two as friends because it really feels like that.
So I often do audiobooks because I can multitask. It makes everything more enjoyable. So two questions related to that. One is, do you have any input in the audiobook as to who's doing it or anything like that? And the second part is, when we're checking out books from the library, whether it's a digital copy, an audiobook, et cetera, does that still benefit you as an author?
I didn't quite hear the second half of the question, but I'll answer the first part first, and then you can ask me again. Regarding the audiobook, I did have a limited amount of input. What happened was, months ago, my publisher sent me a few audio files of a few different readers to say, which one of these do you like best? And I listened to them, and there was one clear favorite, who I went with. Her name is Kelly. It's gonna be Kelly Traeger, I want to say. I could look it up, but anyway, I liked her very much, and I thought her voice had a nice kind of wryness to it that I thought would suit the book very well. So yes, that's the level of input that I had.
The second part was about if we're doing our digital checkouts from the library, whether it's an audio or an ebook, does that still benefit you as an author?
Anyone who wants to read my book in any way benefits me as an author. I am not sure how that works. I believe the library licenses a certain number of ebooks and a certain number of audiobooks. And since they have to pay for the license, I must get some tiny piece of that. I don't know. But I am thrilled to have anybody read my book. Even if you find it on the side of the street, please pick it up and read it and enjoy it. So
Thank you.
I'm going to steal the mic really quickly. Moira, I was thinking that because you have one foot in the book world and one foot in the film world, if while you were writing your book, were you envisioning any particular actors that you would like to see in the film? I mean, I'm thinking Tom Cruise, and so forth.
I do get this question a lot, and I really consciously resisted that, because as soon as you start thinking of an actor, then you're going to start infusing that character with what you know about that actor, as opposed to creating that character yourself. So I don't have people in mind for any of my characters, really. And also, you don't want to get too attached, because if and when a movie ever got made, I doubt very much I would have any voice in what happened.
Hello, it's a technical question. I have purchased your online book, reading it on my Kindle, and we've just bought your hardcover. The question is, on my Kindle, I noticed that you have a prologue or a table of contents showing all of the characters on each chapter named by name, and that does not appear in the hardcover. Is there a reason for that?
That is a good question. I have not looked at the ebook. I think ebooks are just formatted that way, so you can jump ahead to a chapter if you want to. My chapters don't have titles, so yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the ebook.
Now we're both curious.
I'm going to blame AI for that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Moira, I'm curious about your career before you got to what you're currently doing, reviewing movies and books. Yeah, what led you there? What kind of writing happened before that?
Oh, it's been such a long time now. I've been at the Seattle Times almost 24 years. It's a very, very long time. Before that, I don't know. It's been so long. I was working in tech. I have a few friends here who I worked with at Microsoft many years ago. I worked in a technical, what did we do? Technical communication? What was it called? I don't know what it was. Yeah, I just kind of fell into it. I don't really have a great explanation. I worked in tech for a while. I thought, I think I'd like to leave and be a writer. I'm not sure how I'm going to go about doing this. And I began at Seattle Weekly. I worked there briefly. I was kind of a copy editor / kind of writer of all things, and just began writing little things there. And one thing led to another. And yeah, sometimes a career can just be a very strange, meandering path, and you don't know what's behind it. And when young people ask me for career advice, I have none, because I just have no explanation. But yeah,
I was a copy editor at Seattle Weekly also.
That's right.
We didn't cross paths.
We did not, yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, Moira, you've read a lot of books and you've seen a lot of movies. So I'm assuming that you're very, very familiar in a deep way with how plots work and how stories unfold. Do you think with your story that was just unconscious, or did you, since you don't outline, it just kind of happened that, do you get my question?
I'd like to believe that, yes, that all those years of taking in books and taking in movies that somehow made it an impression, and that somehow subconsciously I did kind of learn how to plot and structure. But I think so. I certainly didn't study it or anything. So yeah, I think it just kind of happened.
Yeah, maybe you were studying it all along.
Yes, studying it unconsciously.
I love your everything you write, and I know I love the book too, but I hope you will still continue to write ballet critic, because I love
writing about ballet.
the ballet and the great stuff you write about the dresses and the outfits that people wear too.
Ballet is a great, great love of mine, and it is seriously my favorite thing to write about. So that
Good. Keep
they
it
will
up.
have to pry that out of my hands. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Weirdly, there is no ballet in my book. This just occurred to me.
There's also not one single cocktail.
Yeah, there is. Yes, yeah, there is. And there wasn't a cat, but now there is. I added a cat quite late.
Could you recommend any other favorite books about books and readers? Why those?
Oh, but I am so bad when I get asked for recommendations, because everything I've ever seen or read flies out of my head. And if you'd asked me ahead of time, I would have had a lovely list for you. But I bet Bethany has a great answer for this.
The same thing happens to me. You can email us.
Yes,
Yeah.
send an email and I will give you a fabulous answer to that question. How are we doing? It's almost 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh,
You've gotten the movie question several times. Have you considered your book being adapted as a ballet? And if it's so, have you thought about a favorite choreographer or composer?
that is the most wonderful question. And I think my book would make an amazing ballet. And the composer would be my husband, who is a composer. And let's see, who would choreograph it? Maybe Christopher Wheeldon? Yeah, I'll get on that. That's a wonderful, wonderful idea. Thank you. Actually, my friend Fran up front has a question. Hi, Fran.
Hi. Well, I just want to say that I loved your book and I love everything you write. And obviously you have a lot of fans. What I'd like to know is, what do you think were the most influential kind of people or moments in your life that led you to this day, where you are now an incredibly published author? And sort of who were the people that influenced you, and how has this changed your life?
You guys all have all night, right? Oh my gosh, Fran, how do I answer that? How do I begin to answer that? Everybody in my life has been a piece of this. You know, from my mother, who is right here, who instilled in me a love of reading from when I was very young. From my friends who listen to me and tell stories all the time. To my coworkers who inspire me with their beautiful work every single day. Everybody, as a writer, what you write is kind of just a mosaic of everything that you've experienced and everyone who has kind of touched your life in a different way. So yeah, I don't know how else to answer that, but.
And what about how it's changed your life? How's it changed your life? publish
Well,
this.
obviously I don't do this very often, so it's changed my life a lot. It's just changed my life in a wonderful way. You know, to know that I could tell a story that would resonate with people who don't already know and like me. Because, you know, when your friends like your stuff, that doesn't mean a whole lot, much as I love my friends. But yeah, it's been just incredibly gratifying, and I am so grateful for all of it.
May I share an adorable anecdote that your mother told me last night? Please.
You didn't run this by me.
I'm sorry. When Moira lost her first tooth, her mom went to be the tooth fairy and found, along with the tooth under her pillow, a note that said, "I'd prefer books."
Okay, this is awesome because that will be the title of my memoir. I prefer books.
It was decided that since you were writing a book, you could no longer review books for the Seattle Times. What about your book is being made into a movie? Can you no longer review movies?
Well, my book is
You're
as a
going to be reviewing costumes and ballet.
well, as of right now, my book is not being made into a movie, so we will cross that bridge if and when we get to it. But
we will skip across that bridge with glee.
Yeah, it is very unlikely my book will ever actually be made into a movie.
You know, obviously, I'm preparing myself for having to let go of your current movie reviews, which I adore.
Thank you.
And I had to let go of your book reviews, but I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much.
Success spoil you now.
You won't, I promise. I have many people preventing that from happening. Yes.
Okay. I have a question about your bookstore routine. So I also go to the Ravenna Third Place Books, and it's kind of my happy place where I'll walk in there, I've had a bad day, or I've had an argument, or my kids are crazy, or whatever, and I'll wander over there and sort of hit different areas first. Like you walk in, and I'll always check like everyone's favorites. What is that called? Like the staff favorites, and I'll wander into the fiction. Do you have a routine? Out of curiosity?
Bookstore routine?
Yeah.
Other than going there as often as possible?
Yes.
Probably very much like you. I mean, at Ravenna Third Place, there's all the new releases on the front tables. I always look at that. There's always right by the door is a shelf of their newest used books.
Yes.
And that's often where you can find a great bargain, you know, like a hardcover that I'm waiting for the paperback and maybe it's there. So I always check that. And I just like to wander around and see what catches my eye.
Do you go in usually with an idea of I'm looking for something? Like you mentioned, you were looking one day when you saw the Toni Morrison quote for like a specific type of book, or is it more of a, I don't know, experience?
Sometimes, like if I'm going on a trip and I think I'd like a nice mystery that's going to kind of keep me busy but not too preoccupied. But usually I just want to see, I don't usually have something in mind. Usually I'm just trying to see what catches my eye, what seems like it might be just right.
Fun.
You've talked a little bit about losing your book review job. Was that shocking for you? I found it shocking that that the newspaper decided that.
It was shocking to me to get a book deal. So I did not think my book would sell. I did not think anything would happen with it. So I hadn't thought that far ahead. And so suddenly, just like that, I had a contract with a major publisher, and that turned my world so completely topsy-turvy. I didn't even have time to contemplate the rest of it. Actually, my editor is up there, and she could address this question. But yeah, no, it didn't shock me, just because at the time I was in such a state of shock. Nothing could really permeate that.
Hi, Moira. You mentioned before that there's a cat in the book, and I'm wondering if you could muse on why book people are so often cat people.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that because I couldn't see you at first.
Oh, do you have thoughts on why book people are so often cat people?
Why book people are so often cat people? I don't know, but they're the best kind of people, both kinds, right? Book people and cat people. Yeah, I don't know, but I do think it's often true.
While we wait for the mic to pass, I actually have a question, if that's okay.
I can barely hear you though.
Well, I have a question, if that's okay, while we wait for the mic to get passed. I'm curious what it's like for you to be on the other side of the reviews now and to have your work reviewed when you have such a stellar and excellent career as a reviewer yourself.
Well, the actual truth of it is I've had very few reviews because it is very, very difficult to get a book reviewed these days. I've had a couple of them in Kirkus Reviews and Publishers Weekly and a few others, but national outlets, it is incredibly difficult to get any kind of space. So I'm not really seeing a lot of book reviews. There's a lot of things from bloggers and things from influencers. I saw one this morning that left me quite depressed, although she loved the book, but she got the name of my character completely wrong and freely admitted halfway through that she hadn't actually read the whole thing. So I thought, oh, okay. This is why it won't go to my head. But yeah, I would love to see some reviews. I am sure it would be really difficult if I saw one that was quite negative, but you know, when you dish it out, you have to take it. So that would be fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
My question has to do with you as a book buyer and also secondly, as an author. How much influence when you walk into Third Place Books do covers have for you?
Well, quite a bit. I mean, I've never bought a book for a cover, but I've often picked one up for the cover. And then you read the back and you read the flap. It's like, oh, this looks really good. So yeah, cover is crucial. And that's why we went through so many iterations on this one, because I wanted it to be something that would draw people in. It mattered. I don't think it sells the book by itself, but when there's 20 books on the table and 2 of them are so gorgeous you have to pick them up, then that's an advantage. So yeah, I think that does matter.
And then as an author, you worked with a big 5 publisher. Did they send you like 3, did you give them like an outline and the graphic person read an outline and then they sent you 3 different iterations, or how did that process work at a big 5?
Well, the book was basically done at the time that I sold it. I sold a complete draft. It was an outline. And so fairly early in the process, they started just passing it around to their design department. This is actually the 4th cover. The first one was hideous. It was awful. The second one I loved, but it was quite abstract, and they ultimately decided that it wasn't going to attract people. And the third one, I didn't like it. And then they suddenly came up with this one, and I loved the warm colors of it. And I'd always been saying, I thought a New Yorker cover is kind of the vibe that I was going for. And I think this very much has that. And it just looks like a nice bookstore that you'd want to go into. So yeah, I was very happy with this cover, but it did take some kind of back and forth.
Well, thank you so much. You're going to have chances to ask questions of Moira in the signing line in just a moment. But thank you so much, Moira and Bethany Jean, for being here together. That was such a gift. And you had said before we started that there might be tears because you just are so overjoyed by this whole experience. Someone brought the tears tonight, and that was so beautiful because you are the friends that we have in your writing already in community. So thank you so much for being here and being that for us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.